Molly Cabral here from Common Sense Inc. You can find us at www.cslawinfo.us. It's www.cslawinfo.us. This is information package number 7, Gods versus Men. What is the difference when it comes to law? And I'm going to be reading from a section here which basically briefly goes over the governing and the ideals of the current society and law format that we're currently living in today. It's called Perception, Law of Allowing. The term truth is thrown around so much it has become a staple response within our communities and possibly worldwide. Many different spiritual groups and religious minds believe that what they believe and practice is the truth. In a way, they are right, because whatever we believe is relative to our truth as we perceive it to be. However, there is no such thing as someone having the entire story or facts of anything here on the planet. The reason is because our brains as a physical object are limited, of course. This is not a bad thing, it is reality, just like our hearts can only pump so much blood before they give up entirely. So when I hear someone today say, "This is my truth," I believe them, because at that moment in time, that person's perspective is limited to their belief. That is why, to this day, no matter how hard I try to help others out with law coaching advice, sometimes they will not comprehend that it works against a corrupt system like the one in America. Why is this? Well, partly is their limiting beliefs that were programmed into the mind long ago by the government and media, but also it has to do with our perceptions at this very moment. What we think about daily literally creates our ongoing reality. A dear friend of mine who passed away a couple years ago used to say, "Garbage in and garbage out. Remember, you can start your day over at any time." At first I did not understand what he meant, but over time I did. See, throughout our life, we have evolved into critical thinking organisms able to learn and build upon our experiences on Earth. Unless our perceptions have been distorted by others who want to use our bodies for controlled purposes like hard labor in exchange to make those in authority wealthier. I know this must seem like something out of the Matrix, but it really is, and at first I couldn't believe how deep the rabbit hole really went myself before I really started investigating. That is why in the year 2016, all I have to do is tell someone what they are doing is illegal and they will immediately stop doing it. This is called mind control, and even children practice it when young, because our basic physical nature is always at war within itself. The ego wants to be the boss, and when the soul is really the boss, but allows the physical self to believe what it wants. That, my friends, is the true definition of love. No restraint, no control. The next time someone says they love you and you are experiencing control coming from that person, remember what you read here. By now, you should realize that there is no such thing as, quote unquote, the truth. Only perceptions, and there are billions of them out there. That is why you may hear gurus, which I am not, teaching about staying positive and ways of meditation to achieve success like yoga. In a world with so many different personalities perceiving life slightly different than ours can become quite frustrating and even deadly. Close to 50,000 suicidal deaths last year, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the USA, has raised a few eyebrows. People trying to go about their daily routines with a negative perspective is not the healthy avenue. Another way to view this is through the eyes of those who create the statutes and codes that rule over ordinary lives day to day. Did you ever wonder how they come up with so many rules for the average person? It is not as complicated as it may appear, rather quite simple, really. Keep the public misinformed and afraid. How many times have we heard, "We must be tough on crime," or, "In order to stop inflation, we must raise the tax revenue"? These are just a couple of tricks they use to change our perceptions on reality. If you have ever been to a seminar that teaches you about wealth and how to acquire it, they almost always mention how the rich and powerful tend to not care what the state of the economy is. Yes, all around the world could be in a deep depression, but according to these people's outlook on life, they seem not to be in a state of panic. And a lot tend to thrive in an economy like that. I remember attending a real estate convention in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, a few years back and had a chance to talk with the featured speaker one-on-one. What he said to me I never forgot, looking at me with a silly grin and slight nod of his elongated head. Debt is not the problem. Well, to you and others, it is made to seem so. But in reality, debt is a great thing to those who know how to capitalize off of it. So a bad economy makes me a rich man. And now when I look back on what he said, I have to agree with him. Who benefits from people being in debt? Bankers. They collect high interest rates and can produce many loans to the desperate. Even the gurus that were popping up left and right that year capitalized off of those, including me, that felt desperate because of a bad economy. Some of these seminars cost upwards of $10,000 and more. How does our perspectives play into the legal game? Well, since birth, we are being told what to do constantly, instead of being asked what we want to do with our lives. If you have a chance to be in contact with a child for about a year's time, try giving that child choices instead of dictating to him or her what it wants. Every human being inherently and subconsciously knows exactly what it wants. In order to control that person, we would need to remind them daily that they do not know what's best for them. People in America pride themselves of living in a country that is free and brave. But did you know we have more laws and citizens incarcerated than any other nation in the world? Since birth, your perception is to follow the rules. Whose that choice is entirely up to you, still, whether it's your truth or not. The reality is we allow circumstances and events to transpire every moment of our physical existence here. I have been yelled at and argued with on this point because it seems too harsh to those who would rather still keep their heads in the sand. One of the biggest examples I have had to deal with is this. I met a woman who said I was a mean-spirited man and needed to change my ways. I asked her why. She went on to say because I said that our African ancestors put themselves ultimately into the position they were in to be enslaved. To defend my position, I mention this because it is my perception that for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. This is known in the scientific field as the law of cause and effect. I was not blaming our ancestors for being enslaved. I was showing that because they allowed outsiders into ancient Kemet, which is ancient Egypt, without knowing their position on us and intentional dealings with the empire, that ultimately we were suckered and sacked. Not learning from this past debacle, we continue to allow foreigners to raid and pillage Africa until now, where it still goes on. In my eyes, this seems like a legit way of looking at this, and in the woman's eyes, it was not. We did not continue to argue or get upset with one another. Rather, it was explained that we were looking at the same wall at two different angles. Perception and the law of allowing gives others a chance to experience this world however they please without being bound to one ideological reference. What I mean is a Muslim will see the same thing as a Christian and interpret it different, even though they are both looking at the same object, which happens to be God. The same can be said about the legal system in the United States of America. A lot of people still believe it is righteous and just, even though it happens to be the most corrupt system ever to be developed in world history. But again, we allow our minds to be controlled daily by a media that knows about perception and how to alter it to their benefit. I hear from many clients who claim to be fed up with the statutes and codes that were put in place to extort and lock up the innocent, yet will not change their actions. They continue to pay the state for a plastic card that tells them it is okay to travel. Go to City Hall to pay for a piece of paper that says they can build on free land. Last time I looked, the grass does not charge money. It is man. They continue to not understand the basics of becoming and sustaining godhood. So that's just a part of the information package, Gods vs. Men. I recommend all of you get it so you can find out more. And again, you can follow us at Common Sense Inc. And thank you for listening.